Okay, beautiful souls. I am so excited and so grateful to welcome Amy Edwards into the space. This is going to be so much fun, you guys. There's so much here that is resonating with all of the topics that you guys are wanting me to dig into even more into the space. So, a little bit of background about her. So, she is the CEO and founder of Overflow Bottle Company. She's also a transformative leader, the host of the Amy Edwards Show, which, if you're tuning into this podcast, you absolutely have to tune into hers. It is like this mindset food, like these bite-sized little like golden nuggets in every single episode. You guys have to lean into it. It's all about personal empowerment and happiness at every age. She's also had this 30-year career in radio and music. She's an author, a Reiki master, and the founder of the Fight for Her initiative. And on top of all that, she is a mother to two incredible teenage girls. So, Amy, thank you so much for coming to the space. I cannot wait to dig in with you today.
Thank you. Thank you for that beautiful introduction. It's so wonderful to be here. I'm so honored. So thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Talk about having it all. And this is the beauty of like having it all. We're always evolving. But what that means to me is like you're just living in complete alignment with your soul. So I would love to, as we kind of dig into that, like how are you able to create so much fullness and also be able to give without feeling completely depleted? Because like there's so many things that you're leaning into that light your soul up that you're so grateful to give into humanity. How are you able to do that without feeling that depletion across the board?
Yeah. That's been a big pivot in my message because I've always been, it's not too late to live your dreams. But I hadn't really done the self work to get to a place of deep self love until my late 40s.
Mhm.
And I was twice divorced, and I looked at those relationships and thought, what is the issue here? Why am I not finding this relationship I desire? Why am I still going through the motions in my head of ruminations? I'm a ruminator. And
Totally.
so in negative thoughts, and I have been for a very long time, and I had worn deep grooves in my neural pathways that led me down negative thoughts. And so I had to really lean into the self work to find that place of wholeness and the self love. And I want to say to anyone listening that it's never too late to do it. And it's a grand paradox for all the things that we seek in life. We have to go in first and do the work here to love ourselves so much. And that's the magnetic part, right? I'm sure you do this with your clients.
Yeah.
That's the part that magnetizes the success, the joy, the impact that we want to create. And it seems like the opposite of what we would be doing,
Right.
like it seems like you need to reach outward, but it's not. And it took me such a long time to realize that. I am turning 53 this year. I'm in the best relationship of my life that I met him not long after I really had spent maybe 2 years really doing self work and getting so happy and so clear just in myself. And
Yes.
once you start doing that, then you really are filling your own cup. And it's nothing you do is transactional or from a place of lack and that depletion that you spoke of. And that has shifted my message into one of do this self work and you're creating this overflow. That's why I named my water bottle company Overflow, because we have the power within ourselves to create a life of overflow where we are never depleted. We are full. And
Mhm.
it's it's a shift because so many times we hear women say like I'm exhausted or I'm spent or whatever. Yeah, you know what? You don't have those practices on lock and it takes a while to get there, but it becomes second nature once you do the work. And so that's how I've shifted into this mode of really giving from a place of fullness. And that's not to say I don't have to like slow down and refill myself or I don't have a down day. Of course I do. And sometimes it's hormonal or sometimes it's what you've eaten or whatever. It can be a whole host of things. If you drink, that can 100% be related. I'm 3 years sober. We can talk about that if you want. And that's been a huge shift for me as well as somebody who regularly got shit faced. So, so yeah,
Guilty.
yeah.
Over here
I
too.
mean, so it's
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have this power within us, and we let our own minds get in the way and our own practices, and we can come back to training ourselves or retraining ourselves. For me, I think it was training
Yeah.
and getting into a place of that full wholeness right here, right now. Right?
Mm, so good. So good. And I know that for those that are tuning in, what are some of those daily practices that you use to
Yeah.
kind of fill yourself up?
Well, I'm a Virgo, and
I
so
love
I'm
it. My
pretty
son is a Virgo rising, so I resonate with this energy. Yes.
I'm a Libra rising,
Okay.
Pisces moon, but I'm a list maker like queen.
Mhm.
I love me a
Yes.
list. And so
Mhm.
so I think that it took me getting really diligent about my daily practices for a long time and making a list and checking things off and really being a little probably too hard on myself, but for me, that set me up to get it like brushing my teeth, right? That set me up for getting things down to where I didn't have to think about them. And
Yes.
so at a certain point, I shifted into, gosh, you know what? I feel better. This is second nature. And I'm able to simply shift into positive ruminations on a
Yes.
dime. And that is a huge thing for me. My negative self-talk can really get the best of me. And
Mhm.
so I have to put reminders around my house. I did I did think about practical tips because I'm a practical person. As a Virgo, I like just tell me how to do it, right? That's what my show is all about. Like I like
Yes.
to book experts on something and I'm like, tell me your expertise, then you can take it or leave it, or I can incorporate what works into my life. And
Yes.
so that's how I try to roll. And so I've been able to incorporate like little mindset shifts here and there and just the practices that work for me, and noticing when I'm out of those, noticing when I'm scrolling on my phone, or have had too much caffeine, or just really practical stuff. I've been outside or haven't eaten any
Yes.
protein. It can be really basic things that you just get the hang of, and then you're like, I know I feel my best when I do this. And so I do try to, my days aren't as structured as they
Mhm.
used to be, but
Right.
I think that structure is a good thing to set yourself up for having it as just who you are. And
Mhm.
so approach the mirror, and I have some self-love practices that I always do. And I'm able to look at myself, which, if anyone hasn't looked at themselves in the mirror and spent some time saying, I love you to yourself while looking in your own eyes, it's a profound experience. And I hadn't done it till I was like 40 something, right? 47, 48. And we give that love so freely to other people, and yet we don't give it to ourselves. So, how can you incorporate something as simple as that for a couple of minutes? It's weird, but I recommend it. And the payoff is immense because you really see that there is a need in you to feel that love. Or maybe you're loving your inner child or whatever it is, right? Maybe there's something that brings up shame for you and you can look back and comfort yourself. Those are profound practices that have an impact, and they're so simple. They don't require a bunch of fancy tools or crystals or what a special coach. I don't know. And so there are things that we can do all the time to keep it simple and set ourselves up for success in a way that is paradoxical to what we're told from the outside world, right? Like, you need this next thing and you need to go on Amazon and buy this. You don't, right? Like, we have it already within ourselves. So I do put Post-it notes all over my house. I
Mhm.
still do that. I have them on like pretty much every mirror around my house just to kind of
Mhm.
jog me, right? In fact, I took a picture before I did this while I was putting on my makeup. I have a couple there, like what they say. There's a few little ones here, and they're like the little ones just on my mirror, right?
Oh, I love
If
it.
you're
Yes.
watching, you can see me getting ready. And like this one says, I am a bright, shining, fit, sexy CEO money magnet babe who is the voice for the most shining, overflowing you at any age.
I love
I
it.
mean, go for it,
Yes.
right? I believe in
Yes.
myself and my capabilities. I work on my goals and what matters to me every day. And
Mhm.
it can be just simple reminders, and once you get riffing on it, it can be really fun. Sometimes
Yeah.
I like to walk. I could talk about this forever, Christine. I'm sorry.
I love it. Let's go.
Sometimes I'll just walk around my house and I'll just ask myself insane questions. Like, if you're
Yeah.
looking to level up your business, you just start asking, like, oh my God, why is everyone reaching out to me for being on a podcast. Why is money just flowing to me like crazy? Right? Just you just start riffing and then you make yourself laugh. And I have found that saying things out loud is extremely powerful. And when
Yes.
we're saying things even in a sarcastic way, they have this insane power. Years ago, when I was starting this particular podcast, I've had three or four, and I I signed with a network, and a lot of people were moving to Austin. It was the pandemic. I live in Austin, and Joe Rogan had just moved here, and of course, his podcast is the biggest in the world, and all this. And people would say to me, "Oh, you signed with a network. You should meet Joe Rogan." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm sure. I'm just gonna bump right into Joe Rogan."
Uh-huh.
I People said that many times, right? And I
Yeah.
would just laugh and be like, "Yeah, I'm sure I'm going to meet him." And
Mhm.
I was being sarcastic, but then I did twice, two or three times. And I was like,
Yeah.
and I know he's kind of gone political on us, but back then, that was I'm just using that as an example of saying things sarcastically or saying things with a lightness
Mhm.
of your being, with laughter, with play,
Mhm.
has a magnetic capability
Yes.
and a magnetic vibration and aspect to it. And you never know what's listening. And most
Mhm.
importantly, you're listening. And
Exactly.
so you have this power of your own voice and to hear, like, oh, well, maybe I am. And then you do. And then you see proof. And then you're saying, what? Wow. And
Mhm.
one thing that Justin and I do, Justin's my fiance,
Mhm.
and one thing we do is we've cut out saying, I can't believe it. We say, I can, every time we catch ourselves and we go, I can believe it. And then you're
Mm.
reinforcing this amazingness that's coming your way all the time. And so
Mm.
it's just catching yourself with what you're saying, those simple practices that are incredibly, incredibly powerful. So those are some of my favorites, like watching your internal speak and using post-it notes to reinforce those things that you need. And I just love a self-love mirror practice. Do you do that?
It's the thing that helped me get over my eating disorder. Yeah.
Holy shit. Oh my God.
That, yeah, that and to your
Oh,
point, the inner child healing.
yeah.
It was like the first time I saw my body as whole instead of parts and pieces. And it was like, wow, to look at my whole body in the mirror and to see her as whole. I mean, it was so profound because before it was like, this piece here is too big. This is too that. And it was like so powerful to just, and to look in my eyes, my soul, and to say it to myself. There's something about our voice and the sound of it that resonates with our soul more than anything else. So, to your point, to say it out loud, there's a resonance there that our soul needs. And it was so profound. I just remember being like, I think I finally see like what I've been dying to see all this time. It was so powerful. So I could not agree with you more. It's such a powerful process practice. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, thank you for sharing that. That is so incredible. And it's so true. It's
Mhm.
this weird intimacy with yourself that
Yes.
is so it's kind of jarring, right? You're like,
It is.
"Whoa." And then you're
Yeah.
like, "I would do this to someone I love.
Yeah.
Don't I love me?" And
Yes.
it's like a weird fundamental thing that we're never taught.
Yeah.
I try to model it for my own children. That's a big why for me, right? To show two daughters that anything's possible at any age. And I divorced both their dads. I left those marriages. And so that's been something for me to cope with. And what am I showing them? And so like teaching them to love yourself has been a really big deal for
Mhm.
me. Yeah, which I'm sure you can relate to. No one taught you that, right?
No one did.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if anything, I had it modeled the opposite because they weren't taught that either.
Yes. Yes.
So it was like I saw my parents doing the opposite and I saw people around me doing the opposite. And it's this funny thing where when I was growing up, it was like someone would say something self-deprecating and then you had to do it back. And then it was like, keep going back and forth until we all feel like shit at the end of it. It's like, I think they do a scene on that in Mean Girls where they're like, what's
They
your
do.
shit about you? And it's like, why did we do that? What if we could take a minute? And to your point, it's very intimate. When you're looking at yourself in your eyes, that's probably maybe one of the first times you've ever done that for yourself. It can feel like a little bit like, ooh, this is a little weird. But the more that you do it, the more that you're like, I can see my soul. I can see my soul like emanating out of this body. Like, whoa, it is so profound and it's so simple. And it's like to lean into that can have such a beautiful, lasting result in your mind, body, and spirit.
Truly, truly. And I want to encourage anybody to do it anytime. I mean, like
Yeah.
I was late on it, you know. I was like nearly 50 years old and I was like, why haven't I learned this, been taught this, anything? And so the more we can break those old generational cycles and those things that we've been modeled in, you know, our relationships and all that, the sooner we can let go of those and shift those, the better. Because I have a friend who makes a lot of self-deprecating comments and she's
Hmm.
fabulous and it
Yeah.
bugs the shit out of me. And I
Hmm.
tell her that I'm like, I can't participate in that. Like, no. And I just won't. And I say, you know, I don't want to hear you talk about my friend like that. Like I
Hmm.
will call it out in the moment because it's so second nature to me. And now I am not perfect either at this. I still have to catch myself, but part of your work and evolution is how quickly you can right the ship when you start
Yes.
to notice those old patterns cropping up because that's all they are. They're old patterns. That's why it's a practice. It's not a one and done.
Hmm.
Everything's a freaking practice. And
Hmm.
so
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
just, you just
Yes.
get quicker, right? You just get more like quote unquote muscle memory to it. And
Uh-huh.
so you're able to shift around in that pretty quickly. And it doesn't matter what age you're at. I am like the poster child for do it at any age. And it is a strategy for youthfulness, a glow. It like pays off in all these different ways. And like we talked about magnetism, but it also creates this glow and this joy and this happiness that we're really seeking when it comes
Mhm.
down to it, right? When you talk about people leveling up their business, making more money, what's behind that, right? Why?
Yes.
Because you think it's going to bring you more joy, because you think it's going to give you the resources to pass down to your children, to create change in the world, to whatever it is, right? There's something underneath that. It's not just about the money, right? It's about the
Mhm.
glow. It's about the love, the joy, the experience, I think.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I'm so glad you brought that up because so often we think we're going after the goal, like the seven
Mm.
figures, the eight figures, whatever it is, the number one podcast in the world, whatever it is we think we're going after. It's like, well, how will you feel when you get that? Activate that feeling within yourself now through the practices that you were just talking about. That's what amplifies things in situations and people in that are going to help take you there. But so often we think about it like it's outside of ourselves and it's like, oh no, I just have to activate the part of me that already is that version of me. How would she feel? Would she feel joyful? Would she feel more connected to her family? Can you activate that now? And then all of a sudden, it all starts to fall into place. And that's what I think that like number one business strategy is like, can you feel like her now? Can you access those feelings now versus like, you need this funnel? And like, yes, all of that is amazing. And it's so important to couple the two. Like it's like we could
Yeah.
have a perfect business strategy, but if we're not in alignment with it, or we have a fear of success, or whatever these stories are, we can block it all day long. And so it's really powerful, like you were saying, to take a minute to right the ship. Like take a minute. What's the inner dialogue telling you? And I always tell my clients this too, because sometimes they get mad at themselves when they catch themselves in like that experience of like, oh, I haven't changed. And I'm like, if it's come from subconscious into your conscious, meaning you're aware that it is still there, it's ready to move all the way out of your body now. Like
Mm.
you've actually moved it, you've taken a step forward versus being the one that's like, oh no, it's still there. I'm not moving fast enough. It's like, no, it's still moving. You're aware of it. Now let's just take the last step and move it from the body. So, oh, there's
Yeah, and that's kind of like those practices, right? That's
yes.
that's when you notice like, there's that again. Like for
Uh-huh.
me, it's been like that. Like I go, oh, there's that again.
Uh-huh.
And
There
it's just
she
like
is.
trying again, you know, and you're able to just go like, oh yeah, you can kind of pat it on the head. I
Mhm.
remember you. And
Yes.
you know, and that doesn't mean you have to subscribe to it. That doesn't mean you have to give energy to it. It just means
Okay.
you can detach enough a bit to recognize, oh yeah, I used to do that and that isn't where I want to be and I'm not doing that anymore. And you know, it's just expecting perfection of yourself is unrealistic. And so the more you can detach from it a little bit, recognize it as some sort of pattern that you've had and give yourself grace around it, the happier you're going to be, right? Because
Yes.
tied up in perfection, if you've had an eating
Yeah.
issue,
Oh, yeah.
you
Uh-huh.
know, that's just a recipe for unhappiness. And so the more flex and gray area we're able to give ourselves where we understand, oh gosh, that just came up a little bit. That's okay too. I'm human. I have memories and brain patterns and whatever else. And then we're able to let it go a lot more easily and
Yes.
move more fluidly into the person that we want to be. And then it gets quicker, right? And so, I mean, at least for me, that's been my experience. And I am able to recognize those patterns for what they are. I've been in Al-Anon and my partner's in recovery. So there's a lot of people pleaser in me and a lot of, not really knowing what I want and doing other things. And so I'll have to catch myself and say, oh, yeah, yeah. Okay. I'm able to recognize that and step back into myself.
Yes.
It's those little things that step us back into ourselves when we fall.
Okay. So, what I think is so beautiful about you is you decided to lean into this rock and roll career at 38. You released your first album at 40. And I know, myself included, for a while was like that story of, oh, I'm too old to start over, the fear of starting over, or am I too old? What would you say to that person that has this beautiful mission in their heart, but they're scared to go after it or that they've got limiting beliefs around it?
I have said it many, many times to many, many people. They
Yes.
all say like, "Oh my God, I could never do that." And I'm like, "Yeah, actually you could. You could put on leather pants." Now, I do live in Austin. We are the live music capital of the world. So when some friends of mine said, "Hey, let's get together and learn instruments and play some music instead of getting together for lunch," we did, right? And it evolved over time. We hired a coach and to teach us things and we just started doing it and we attracted a crowd and people were like, oh my God, look at these like housewives that are like doing this or whatever. And we just kept going. And when I realized we had something powerful to say, like we had a message that like you can do this at any age. You can still get up on stage. You can, live your dream of playing the drums or playing the guitar, whatever it is. And when our band started to fall apart, we started to try to become an original band instead of just a cover band. And when that happened, we started to kind of fall apart. And so I ended up, long story short, I ended up on my own. And I thought, well, I've been doing this for 3 years and I know that it pushes me outside my comfort zone. So should I continue? And I did. And that's when I became an independent rock and roll artist. And I stepped into doing it on my own. And here I was, 40 years old. I didn't know what I was doing, but I knew that it pushed me in a way that got me out of my comfort zone in a very scary way, but it opened me up to more authenticity and to using my voice in a completely different way because I'd done radio for years and I didn't even understand why I was doing what I was doing. And which is like an adjacent message there, which is, sometimes we do these things or we say yes to things that to us and we don't know why. So I started to recalibrate how I measured success and failure as well. I got really wrapped up in, oh, if this song doesn't, break on the charts or something, it's a failure. And I had to shift that. And I thought, if what means success to me is if I'm really coming from my heart, if I can look back on what I have created and know that it was true and it was authentic and it was really me. I wasn't doing things because I thought that's what people wanted to hear. Instead, I was doing it because it was truly me and truly the creative process. And that's when you are able to create something, whatever it is, and let it go and not be attached to the outcome. And that's a really beautiful thing. And that is success, right? When we're able to measure the the weight of it by the truth to our soul rather than an outside metric that we really don't have any control over. I mean, how many people have created great things and it doesn't matter at all, right? And so or it doesn't seem like it matters, right? It doesn't take off, it doesn't go viral or whatever. That doesn't mean it's not great. That's where we have to let that go or we are measuring ourselves by outside standards and ultimately that is unhappiness, right? So
Mhm.
I think that, what I tell people, that was a long roundabout way of getting to what I tell people. I just tell people that you absolutely can. And if you desire something, like one of my friends, he's a jewelry designer, and he puts it so well. He's like, the pain of not doing it is greater than the pain of doing it. And it's true. If you don't do it, can you really sit contently with your soul? And that means whether you're creating a business or creating content or creating art, whatever it is, a podcast. I recently spoke to people that wanted to start a podcast and I was giving them advice and all that. I couldn't believe how many people were holding themselves back from just their first episode. They had a lot of things in their head. Oh, well, I have to build up this many episodes and I have to do this and all these stupid rules. There's no rules. It's a wild west in podcasting. You can do whatever you want. And it's just really the same for anything. There's no right way, there's no wrong way, there's only the way you're going to do it. And you have to get over that fear of feeling like looking silly as a beginner. And
Mhm.
if you can get over that, then the world is your oyster, right? Because if you can laugh at yourself, and that's what I had to get over. I had to just be like, yeah, I'm not the world's greatest guitar player, not by a long shot. And so I was able to embrace being a beginner. And then you're able to just have fun. And then that's playful. And then we're right back to that beautiful energy that we were talking about, that childlike energy, that magnetism, that fun, that, giving a lot less fucks. And so I just think that so many times we let our own mind and our own perceived limitations hold us back. And I just tell people, you absolutely can do it. And ultimately, it's attractive. And I mean that in the sense of attracting, and I mean it's hot, right? It's cool.
Yeah.
Like you see somebody who's like 70 picking up playing something like you got to start, right? The best
Mhm.
time to plant a tree is 20 years ago or today. So just
Mhm.
start. And it's fun and interesting. And if you don't like it, then who cares? Like
Mhm.
everybody's thinking about themselves a lot more than they're thinking about you. So just
True.
let it go and enjoy being a beginner, enjoy the missteps because you've got to start or you're never going to get there. I posted something about this recently. I posted about one of my first speaking engagements and it was a few years ago and I I they were doing some woo-woo type stuff like breath work before the day before everyone was staying in a house and I was speaking and the next day and she invited us to draw a card from this specific deck. And so I drew a card. I'm very like tuned in, all this. I'm like tuning in. I'm like, I'm going to draw a
Yes.
card. It's going to be great.
Yes.
I draw a card. I'm not even joking. It says inexperienced. And I was like, well, fuck you.
What kind of deck is this?
Like calling me out. And then, it just hit me like, you're going to be inexperienced at one point, like the beginning. Like, I use this example all the time. Like, the pilot TV show is never the best one. It's never.
Mm,
You look back on the
so
first episode of
true.
Seinfeld or Friends and you're like, "Wow, how did that even get picked up?" And
Yes.
they're never as good as the third season, fourth season. And you are on your pilot episode. So just
Mm.
who cares? You've got to go through it to get there. And that's what I posted the other day. You can't skip the beginning. You can't skip the middle part. If you want to get there, you got to just do it. And you're gonna like maybe fall on your face. You're gonna maybe look stupid. You're gonna maybe have people make fun of you. And you're gonna maybe get some comments like when I started doing music, a friend of mine said, "So you're really doing this, huh?" And like, really judgy. And I was like, yeah, I am. And I did. And I don't know what people said to me. I just ignored it and went on about my business. And so I think that's what I tell people like, yes, you can. And I try to live it more than anything else. I try to be a living example of what can be. Everything that I talk about in my show, thank you for the props to my show, The Amy Edwards Show. I walk the walk and try to live it 100%.
Mm.
I I take what I'm learning and I don't just, put it away and leave it in the ethers as a podcast. I really work to live it. And so I think that's the best thing I can do to tell people like this is what's possible. Same with
Mhm.
sobriety, right? Like I wondered about it and then had to actually live it as an experiment and try it to understand what it could possibly bring to my life. And it was challenging, really challenging, because it's so ingrained in us. It was ingrained in me to go out with my friends and have a drink. And like, what am I making everyone uncomfortable if I'm not? Oh my God. And
Mhm.
so it's just stepping into this other version of ourselves. And I just really try to live by example.
Absolutely. And I just love too how you were talking about each of these being a puzzle piece of like just
Yeah.
let the puzzle build on itself because we're not going to know what the piece is 5 pieces away. Just allow yourself to be on what's the next puzzle piece,
Hmm.
what is that going to stack me towards? What is that? So instead of thinking about oh, but she's got all this in her puzzle, look at your puzzle. What's next for you? What lights you up?
Yes. And my
Yeah.
puzzle didn't make sense. It didn't look
Mhm.
like a picture until I
Yeah.
was like
Uh-huh.
48 years old. And
Yeah.
then things started to make sense. And I thought, oh my gosh, wow, I never could have predicted that. And things, you just see things with a new, clear eye. And it's empowering and it's also surprising. And you just, I wish I could go back and tell myself, relax.
Yeah.
Everything's going to make sense one day. So
Yeah.
if you're, I don't know, hitting 30, 40, whatever it is, things will make sense. Just trust. And
Mhm.
everything's a season. You have so much time. I love that quote or meme that says most people overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in a decade. And it's so true because you have so much time in a decade. I feel like I lived like 20 lives, right?
So true.
Reinvention all the time. And it's magnificent. And so yeah, that's a big part of who I am is walking the walk and staying the course of that and understanding that it'll all fit together at some point. And it doesn't matter how old you are. Now I'm engaged in my dream relationship with someone 15 years younger than me, and it's amazing. And it's kind of changed how I view age. And so that's
Yeah.
been an interesting journey for me. And
Yeah.
so, you just never know what life's going to hand you that's going to make you rethink things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, so good. And you know what I think would be really fun to lean into? So you've got these two incredible companies that you founded, right? Like we're talking about like the Fight for Her initiative, and then you've also got the Overflow bottle company. Like you think about both of these, and I know that you created these from a deep sense of wanting to be of service to humanity. And I'm curious, there's so many people that are in my, sphere and that I know that are tuning in that are like, oh, I've got this big idea, but it feels so big. Where do I even start? What would you say to that person that's like, where do I even start? Because it's so big and I just want it to work and all these things. Like, what would you say to that person?
Glad you asked because now we're going into major woo territory, which I know you
Oh,
like.
you've come to the right place.
So have you. And so around the time I was doing all this self work, right? And I like to write things down. I like to say them out loud. And so I created an audio vision board. I mean, I'm radio, I'm kind of an audio nerd, music, all that. And so I created an audio vision board, right? And so I wrote down my dream day. And it was, how I felt from the moment I woke up, what my bedroom was like, what projects I'm working on. And sky's the limit, right? Like I said, the view out of my house, like everything.
Yeah.
And I recorded it as a little voice memo and I would listen back to it regularly. And one of the things I said in it was I have a nonprofit that helps millions of people around the world. And literally, talk about something that seems big. I've always heard a nonprofit is so hard to start. I didn't have any idea how I would ever found a nonprofit or that would come to pass or I would help anyone. And then come to a year or two later, I meet someone who is a founder of a nonprofit. This is my fiance. And just things just started to fall into place. And so my advice is put the big vision out there, say
Mm,
it out loud. Who cares how big it is? And then just let it go. And maybe you still listen to it. I stopped listening to that vision board. And then after Justin and I had been together for like 2 years, one day during that time, he said, we were out on a walk. I can't remember exactly where we were. And he said, he's been married before. He said, with my ex-wife, we had thought about doing something specifically for women with Fight for the Forgotten. That's his nonprofit, and we help the Batwa Pygmy people, namely the Batwa, the Pygmy people in Uganda and surrounding areas. And so he said, we thought about doing something for women. It was called Fight for Her, and she never picked it up and never did it. And we really had kind of thought about it, and I was like, I love that name. First of all, I love this idea. I want to do something for women. And it just I was like, oh my gosh. And it took another 2 years before that really came to fruition and we started truly developing it. It took someone hearing about it and saying, do it. You can launch it at my event, all this, and giving me a deadline. And I did. And the point is, you just put it out there and the universe starts to conspire in your favor and it will blow you away. And I went back and listened to that vision board and I had forgotten that that was in there. I listened to it. I played it for Justin. I was like, oh my gosh, I never dreamed how a nonprofit would come to pass in my own life. At all. And
Yeah.
here it is just landing in my lap. And that's part of this basis for overflow, for this creation of overflow is like, oh, as I hit 50, I was like, wow, I have shifted in a whole different direction in my life. And that is about service and the fulfillment that serving the world and serving others can bring. But it's only after you do that work on yourself that you are in a space to really give because you understand you're not depleted, because you know that you're full and whole. And so you have to do that self work first. And I didn't know it at the time and I did it and now here we are. And so I again want to live by example to show people you can create the life of your dreams and you can create impact from a place of wholeness and have
Mm.
everything that you want and still not want, right? Not come from a place of wanting and desiring to
Right.
where I'm not
Yeah.
whole. You are whole, right? And so, and yet you're still fulfilling these desires. It's this funny balance. And that's been so interesting. And so Overflow is a one for one water bottle company. I'm still creating, launching the first one, and
Mhm.
it's been divinely guided. I interviewed somebody who had a one for one company, and I thought, I really want to start one. What would that be? And I lifted my arms to the sky and I said, what would that be? And literally got it in that moment. And I was like, holy shit, I've seen Justin give clean water to people so many times and they
Yeah.
don't have anything clean to put it in. And
Oh,
now
yeah.
he is a prolific keynote speaker and they're always saying, what can we put in our goodie bags for the guests and all that? And we're like, "Oh my gosh, we'll have a built-in product right here that gives back." I wrote the business plan not with dollars in mind, but with how many water bottles can we give to people? How many
Mhm.
clean containers can we provide for others? Because it's a
Mm.
no-brainer to me. If I go buy a water bottle, how many water bottles do you have in your kitchen, right? And
Kitchen.
yeah,
Mhm.
and lids and everything. And so I'm like, it's a no-brainer. You see one that you know you're giving an extra one to somebody who's experienced water scarcity, done deal. And
Yeah.
so that I just was like, whoa, what an idea. And then I thought, well, I wonder what I should call it. So I lifted my hands to the sky again and I went like, I said, oh, what should it be called? It needs a name. And I got the name right then. And I was like, Overflow. That's amazing. It gave me
Oh,
chills. It gives me chills right
yeah.
now. And
Yeah.
so, just it's just this space of nothing is too big. They say stretch it 3 times the size. Then you're really pushing. And that's the scary part. And then the initial dream seems a lot more doable, right? Because you're like, oh
Yeah.
shit, I just pushed it out to raising $8 million when I had really
Uh-huh.
only thought about two. And,
Uh-huh.
so it's stretching your comfort zone just more and more, but also in this way of detachment. And mm, you don't know best what's for your life. You don't know what's coming. There may be something better, this or something better, right? And just relaxing into that. And I thought I had to think long and hard, Christina, about whether I wanted to start a company in my 50s
Mhm.
because I thought, gosh, it sounds stressful and all those things that go with starting a company, all those cliches. And, I've done things before and gotten stressed. And so I thought, okay, well, I'll do it, but I don't want to be stressed about it. So I'm
Mhm.
not. I'm not.
Oh,
And we recently went back to the drawing board with
yeah.
my lids.
Mhm.
And now we've got the tariffs and all these other things to think about. And so what? I'm like, I'm not going to stress about it. This was
Mhm.
divinely guided and trusting that you're in your purpose and in your divine purpose and being led. That's just a beautiful place to be. That's where you can relax and surrender and just say, you know, here we are. I don't know if you've read The Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer. It's really powerful. And
Yeah.
he wrote Untethered Soul. He's
Oh, yeah.
amazing, amazing. And so, Surrender Experiment is just all about his repeated surrender when life was showing him things. And so that's what we can apply to our life. Like, yes, you want it, but at the same time, relax because who knows? Maybe
Mm.
something better is coming.
Oh,
So, yeah.
oh my gosh, so good. And you know what I think is so powerful is you're giving people permission to stay in the experience of co-creating because it feels big when we feel like we're doing it by ourselves. And so what I was hearing you say through that entire experience is like allow yourself to be a conduit for what God source universe wants to move through you. Like
Yeah.
that, suddenly we don't feel so alone. Suddenly it feels guided. Suddenly it feels easy if we desire for it to feel easy. And so I love that you're like, no matter what, I desire for this experience to be easy. And so that's what you've created. And now all of the people that are being directly impacted by you just saying yes, yes to the thing, the intuitive ping and the ease and the flow of all of it. And I
Yeah.
love the idea of an audio vision board. That is so smart because I'm the same where I'm like, I just want to riff on something, but like to create an actual vision board, I literally have a poster board that I'm looking at that I've been looking at for 4 months. And I'm like, oh yeah, let me do an audio. That sounds juicier for me. I don't think there's a right or wrong way to create vision. And so it was like the permission for me when you said that, where I was like, that feels so much easier and so much juicier and so much lighter. Like follow what lights yourself up, you know? And so it was like, I'm going to do it that way. So thank you.
And there's that deep power that we were talking about earlier of listening to your own voice, right?
Yes.
And trusting your own voice. I find so much power in that. I create my own meditations, I create my own affirmations that I'll read in those. I have done therapy with that, and it makes such a difference. And you can just use your phone. Everybody has the capability of this. And I know sometimes people get wrapped up in like not liking the sound of their own voice. Just get over that, right? Just keep listening
Mhm.
to it. It'll pass. And
It will.
so just record that, and you build this trust of your own voice. And
Yeah.
especially if you are living in a way where you are so conscious of what you say that you are speaking truth all the time, then you
Mm.
know you're a truth speaker. Then when you speak these dreams, you're like, oh, I'm a truth speaker. And here I am hearing myself speaking. It must be true because that's how I talk, right? I speak truth. And so then suddenly it's this loop of creation and
Mm.
it's very magical. And so as in anything you want, this is possible. I should really make a new one or listen to my old one, right? And you can put music behind it. You can do whatever you want. And a Canva is insane right now, right? It can create this AI music to go with anything and for as long as you want. And there's so many tools that we have at our fingertips. And so use those tools and then speak it out and create your own feedback.
Mm. So good.
It
Oh my
is. It's a great tool. One of
yeah.
my favorites, one of my very favorites. A vision board that's visual. I have one up there too that actually has a lot of blank space. I haven't quite finished it. Sometimes I just can't find the right pictures or I can't find the right thing. And that mind movie that you can create when you really tune in. And I would say if you're doing this vision board, talk about how it smells. What are
Ooh,
you
yes.
seeing? How do you feel? What clothes are you putting on and how do those feel against your skin? What are
Mm.
you eating? How does your body feel? Are you fit and sexy, right? Like every little thing, tune into that sensual side of it and really dive into the little details that make it very real. And
Mm.
that's going to make it come to life even more to where you are living it, just like you were saying, right? You are living it. Maybe you're
Mhm.
like looking at the wall and there's covers of magazines that you're on. Maybe you have 3 calls lined up that day with investors. I don't know, just anything.
Yes. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Well, this was so juicy. I can't wait to record my audio of like my vision and to get into all of those just intricate details because that's where you feel it. And like
It
I love
is.
to close my eyes when I'm doing that because I do it without recording. Now I'm totally going to record. But like I'll do this where I'm like changing out the laundry and I'm like get inspired and I'll just stand up and close my eyes and speak my vision into existence and I feel it in the cells of my body. But to listen to it back would be so powerful too. So I just love this idea of leaning into it even more. So, thank you
It-
so much. Is there anything else intuitively that's coming through that you want to share into the space? Or, I mean, everything you just dropped was like a golden nugget. So, is there anything else that comes to mind though that you want to share with the listeners before we?
yes, yes. Let's see. I think that if anyone feels behind in life, that's just your mind telling you some false stories. The
Mm,
truth is, time is an illusion anyway. But the
yes.
truth is, you're exactly on the path you need to be on. And you can relax into that. You can relax into who you are. You are beautiful and unique. And just like everything else, there's no right way, there's no wrong way, there's no set plan that you have to adhere to. There is your path, and it is unique and beautiful. And so, if you're feeling behind, it's a fallacy. And you can change your story right now. You don't have to wait till New Year's. Don't have to wait till the next new moon. You can just change your story right now in this moment to I'm exactly where I am supposed to be. And for me, it's as simple as that. I have one mantra that I say to myself all the time. It's my fallback. I love myself. Life loves me. Period. I say it when I'm falling asleep and my mind starts to wander in something negative. I say it when anything happens and I can't think of anything else, or maybe I am feeling anxious about something. I love myself. Life loves me. That's just my go-to. And you can find your own to step into in any moment and shift your mindset. It's as quick as that. You don't have to go searching out nature or anything else. It can happen in this very moment. And I just want everyone to know that you're not behind. You can shift your story right now to I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. And life is opening up for me every moment in the most beautiful way. And I am grateful and feel that gratitude of just this moment, how lucky we are to be right here. Like I said, spinning in the cosmos. What are the chances? And here we are.
Mm,
So that's what I want to invite people to just remember.
that
Everything's
hit.
okay.
So yes, that hit home for me. So thank you so
Oh,
much
I'm
for
so
your,
glad. I'm so
yes.
glad.
Oh, this was amazing. And I know that everyone who's tuning in wants more of you. So where can they find you? Where are you hanging out?
I'm very easy to find. I
Yeah.
am on Instagram at Real Amy Edwards, and spelled just like it sounds, AMY. And I am at the Amy Edwards Show. Everywhere you find podcasts, that's probably the best place, or amyedwards.com. Amyedwards.info has literally every show, my courses. I have some very simple courses about youthfulness and tuning into all the habits that can serve you. I have everything about Fight for Her there. We've just done a rebrand and we are making a difference in the Batwa Pygmy women's lives. We are seeing women start businesses for the first time to experience economic independence when they haven't even had clean water. And now they have clean water. Now they're going to have health care. Now they're sending their daughters to school. It is magnificent. And so if anyone is interested in making a difference and joining us, I invite you because that's a very simple way to spread what you do if you're successful in business and you really want to make a difference. Like it is so fulfilling that it just blows my mind. And so that's amyedwards.info. You can really literally find everything and reach out to me. I'm very responsive. You can reach out to me, DM me, respond to my newsletter, anything. So
Mm. So good. So good. Thank you, Amy, from the bottom of
thank
my heart
you.
and
Thank
soul for
you.
being here, for spreading all of your wisdom and your lived experience. Like just everything that you shared today was so embodied. And you could just, exactly like you said, I'm a truth teller. And I could feel that in the cells of my body as you were speaking. So
Oh,
thank you so
thank you.
much. It was
Thank
incredible.
you. Thank you so much. Yes. And it's taking a little work to get here, but don't stop, everybody. Keep going.
Yes, keep going. So, for all the listeners that are tuning in, thank you from the bottom of our souls for joining us here today. We're sending you so much light and love. And until next time, bye.